welcome to this video, which is part 5, chapter 5 of our Fight e4 like Caruana series, and this is the first chapter that deals with the Petrov. I mean, we had this move order on the board already for other earlier chapters, but here with the move d4, we're going to examine one move that really keeps the game within the Petrov boundaries. We've looked at other moves, knight c3 for example, in chapters 3 and 4, but White's most principal tries against the Petrov always have been knight takes e5. That will be subject of the final 3 chapters, or d4, which we will look at in this chapter, chapter 5, and in chapter 6. In chapter 6, just to be clear what is the separation there. In chapter 6, we will look at just one particular line, the old main line of the system, which runs like this. I just want to get this out of the way. This is what we're looking at, this move. We were looking at in chapter 6. In chapter 5, in this video and in this chapter of the course, we will look at everything that might happen before this position arises after 6 moves, because here after the 6 moves there's quite a body of theory that will be looked at in the next video and in the next chapter. So back to the starting position. Yeah, d4 is one of White's principled tries, and it is the second main line, let's say, after knight takes e5. The move d4 has been featured in Caruana's games, and it has been featured in key games also of the candidates tournament in 2018, where Caruana qualified to get the match against Magnus Carlsen. And we see some of these examples in the next 2 hours probably. I think it will be a roughly 2-hour video. Okay, d4. What is Black going to do against this move? There is in fact only one satisfactory move, and this is the one I'm going to recommend. This is to capture on e4. The alternatives are really not great. You have e takes d4 that has been tried in high-level games, but these are all like 20-30 years old. It is now established that White is better after e5. You also can go d6, but that is a bad version of a Philidors. All of that is not great. We have to take on e4, and this is also according to the general principle that we should take the center pawn on e4 if we can do so unpunished. It's always nice to follow a general concept. So what is White doing now? Here White's main move by a mile is the move bishop d3 to attack the knight. That is what they almost all of them play. But it's not the only move, and there is one move in particular that is interesting to check. We'll get to that. That is d takes e5. I can put it on the board. There are 2 rare moves here that are worth checking, but that is quickly dealt with. White could also take on e5, and now Black has an interesting choice. You can play the move d5 for complete symmetry, which very likely after bishop d3, knight d7 will transpose to the main line here of this complex, or, and this is my suggestion because that is a bit more straightforward, but there is no difference in quality really, d6 to attack the knight. White will retreat, and after d5, oops, that shouldn't happen. I hope that is not happening again. I had that in an earlier video, but bit of weird software glitch. Anyway, here we transposed to the main line with knight takes e5 on move 3. It's a pretty funny transposition. Yeah, so that is the same position after this. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Knight e4, knight takes e5, d6. There's one thing I need to mention. White could do this one, which is a little bit irritating at first maybe, because king takes f7, queen h5 is actually good for White. But you have queen e7. this is an important motif to remember. Now we are attacking indirectly the king, threatening knight c3 check, winning the queen. And that means we are winning the house here, winning the knight at least. So this does not work. It's funny, by the way, that this position was featured in a game between Smirin and Anand, in a rapid game where Anand, on a blitz game actually, where Anand now took, I think, more than 1.5 minutes for his move. He was deeply irritated, it seems, with knight takes e5. By knight takes e5, you can still find that on YouTube. It's a funny video, also because of the commentary. Anyway, let's go back. Knight e5 is purely transpositional or bad for white. Sometimes white has tried queen e2, but that is probably a case where white confused lines somewhere, because that move is not really great. We can just go d5 and ask white what the queen is doing on e2. After knight takes e5, bishop e7, for example, we are going to castle short next, rook e8, and somehow there's a queen on e2 that doesn't belong. So this is completely uncritical. Going back here, the only real alternative to bishop d3, which again is by far the most popular move, the only real alternative is to take on e5. And this is a move that in fact has gained quite a bit of popularity in recent years. The main reason for that is not because it is particularly fantastic, but the reason is that the other lines, the traditional lines that have been played since ages, they are all completely fine for black. And in some cases, there's really not much more that white can try. It is settled that in many of those lines, it is just okay. So white has tried new ways, and d takes e5 is such an idea. My suggestion is to play d5. That is the most natural move. It needs to be mentioned that this move exists and leads to very sharp complications after bishop c4. This is, however, extremely tough to learn, I think. It's purely tactical and very, very difficult to remember. And ultimately, I decided to recommend d5. This is also what Caruana has played in this position all of the time, and very successfully, we have to add. So let's go d5, a normal looking strong move. We have taken on e4 on the third move, and we have played d5. Two things that I keep mentioning during this series, that whenever black manages that, getting rid of the e-pawn, playing d5, that he's usually okay. And this is definitely no exception. If you just look at this on general grounds, we have a good foothold in the center and the bishops can be developed easily. This is a common scenario in the Petrov. You don't have a bad piece. That's very important. You can develop freely. So what is white's idea with this whole line? He tries to establish this pawn on e5, and with this pawn on e5, enjoying a little bit of a space advantage, controlling these two squares in particular. This is white's white's argument in favor of his position. What black has, we have a 4 against 3. Here we have 4 pawns against 3 majority on that side of the board, and quite often with c5 we can set this in motion. Here white most often goes for knight bd2. I need to mention that there is bishop d3, and this is also a very decent move, but this we will look at via a different move order. This we will look at via bishop d3, d5, d takes e5, because that is the far more frequent move order to reach this position. But technically speaking, it is the same position, and it is a decent move for white. Moves that are not scary include e takes d6, en passant. It's just important that you play bishop takes d6. I'm not really sure why, but there are games in the database where black played knight takes d6, and that makes no sense. Why would you decentralize your strong piece? If you enjoyed the free video preview, make sure to go to chessable.com/fightlikecaruana to get the full course. The full course with the Move Trainer and video sync technology is an excellent way to learn all the ideas and strategies connected to this repertoire. These lines were essential in Caruana's fight to get the world title match, and they can be an essential part of your opening repertoire as well.